So welcome all of you to today's class. I believe this is your first time when we are starting and understanding the income tax laws and even taxation for that matter, which is your paper 4. Hi, I'm CA Ridhima Bhatia and I'll be taking you through the basic concepts of the income tax. So just some ground rules before we start. This is some new field for all of you at inter level and with due respect of understanding new things, I also want you to participate in whatever interaction is happening there through the query model. And please come up with your queries. If you have any concerns, if there's any doubt, please feel free to ask. And also do not think that this query is a small query or this query is a big query. Just drop all your queries in and I'll be very happy to answer. Okay, so shall we begin? Or you want to know or ask anything before we start? So we'll go understanding today's and Monday's class of how and what actually are basic concepts in relation to income tax. And we start first with understanding what the term tax is. So I'll request everyone now to settle in and then we'll start. Good morning, everyone. Komal, Diksha, Bhumika, Khushi. A very good morning to all of you. So to everyone who has sent the greetings and to everyone who is listening. So let's start. Now, what do you mean by tax and why government has tax? Now, if you understand macroeconomics at large, the country runs on revenue, then they make expenditure for infrastructures and facilities, then people earn, pay taxes, give up their share for the contribution of the economy, and the cycle goes on. Then the government gets revenue, then they make expenditure, and the cycle goes on and on, right? So can I say taxes are our contribution to society for what they have given to us? See, had internet not been there, had infrastructure not been there, had the situation which we are in right now would not have been there, we might not be generating that income. So in a way, the government and the facilities play a very important role for us to generate income. Obviously, I'm not saying skills are not important and etc., but they are providing us a setup, an economy, a framework to work on, right? So taxes ultimately are a contribution. Now, गवर्नमेंट के लिए रेवेन्यू क्या क्या हो सकता है? गवर्नमेंट के लिए रेवेन्यू टैक्सेस हो सकते हैं, गवर्नमेंट के लिए रेवेन्यू इंटरेस्ट कैन बी द गवर्नमेंट रेवेन्यू. देयर कैन बी मेनी एलिमेंट्स फॉर गवर्नमेंट टू अर्न रेवेन्यू. आई एम नॉट जस्ट सेइंग कि गवर्नमेंट का ओनली वन सोर्स इज रेवेन्यू or one source of revenue is tax, but government can have a lot of revenue source and one big and major source is tax. But tax can be of two types, direct tax and indirect tax. Now, what is direct tax and indirect tax? So direct tax means when you, being the person who has to pay tax, directly pay tax to the government. That happens when you have the taxes on your income or on your wealth. Aapka income, aapka tax, and you are paying directly to the government. Your income, your tax, and you are paying directly to government. That is called direct tax. The burden to pay the tax is directly on you, and you have to give it to the government. The most common example of this is income tax. The tax on our income. So sorry for my bad handwriting, I'm just giving a disclaimer. Then indirect tax means, indirect tax means the person who is paying the tax to the government would recover the tax from some other person. So let's take a very simple example. When you go to restaurant, the taxes you are paying are to the person who is charging you, right? So you have paid the taxes and now that person will pay the tax to the government. So you have not paid directly to the government, you have paid it through indirect form. So that is called your indirect tax, where the burden to deposit to the government is a different person, and the person who's actually paying is different person. So indirect tax का सबसे common example is GST. Cut to 6 years back, 7 years back, we had service tax, we had VAT, but now on, there's one only term which is called GST, goods and services tax, tax on goods and services. And there is also one more tax called custom duty. But custom duties are when something gets imported in India, and to bring it at par with the Indian goods, you pay a custom duty. Again, the custom duty is paid by you to a body, and then that body deposits to the government, or to that organization deposit to the government. So custom duties are one such indirect tax. But at your stage, you would be learning about the Income Tax Act and fairly about GST. Customs, I don't think so is here at your level. Okay? Now moving forward. Just 1 second. किसी को direct taxes and indirect taxes में problem? Darshan, I was so very waiting for this question at the starting itself. So Syed, as much I would like to answer all your queries, I would also request at the same time that please restrict the queries to the topic we are doing. In case you want to ask anything off the topic, it would be better to address it at the end of the class, because for everyone, we have to go at the same pace, at the same scale, okay? One second. So now we understand how this tax actually flows, who levies the tax. So everything under India, when I talk about, comes from the constitution. Constitution gives power to make law, and then the government makes law. Now, as we all know, we have one central government, and we have multiple state governments for each state. Some union territories have their independent government, some are again controlled by the central government. So how they are not doing everything because of their will. The constitution allows them to do, and constitution is divided into articles, just like an act is divided into sections, okay, and chapters. So now the constitution allows the government to form laws, and one such articles allow government, which is my article 245 of the Constitution, allows the central and the state government, that is the parliament and the state legislatures, to make laws. But अब कौन सा किस topic पे law बनाएगा? Who would make law on what subject? As in, who has the authority to make law on what subject? That is given under my 7th schedule of article. These all things are for your general information. You just to understand the framework from the perspective of how things are happening. So do not worry, you have to remember all these articles and stuff, okay? So just understand. So article 246 जो law बनाने का part देता है, उसका 7th schedule tells that what all types of law would be made by which type of government. So there we have 3 lists, one namely union list. As the name suggests, this would have all the subject matters where the parliament can make the law, the central government. State list would have the subject matter where the state has the power to make law. Concurrent list would be the subject matter where either or both of the parties can make law. So state list में जैसे अब हर एक state का there is Rent Control Act, there is Shops and Establishment Act, that is as per their state. Professional tax, that is as per their state. So state उस पे according they would work because state का भी revenues होते हैं, union का भी revenues होते हैं. Union list allows the government and the central government to make the tax or to make the law on income tax. The union list allows the central government of income tax say whatever related changes or laws or effective ordinances have to be passed, that would be passed by the central government, not by the state government. State government आके income tax levy नहीं कर सकती. Got it? और वो क्यों नहीं कर सकती? Because again, everything is as per the constitution. Now, if I have to give you the understanding back to the revenue, before I go to all these departments, because अब से we'll now talk about more of income tax. So government के under there is Ministry of Finance who takes care of the finance department. वहां पे revenue department होगा, expenditure department होगा, right? Revenue department में direct tax authority comes and indirect tax authority. So CBDT is the board for direct tax, Central Board of Direct Taxes, and CBIC, Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Custom, is for indirect taxes. Okay. So for us, there would be one which the central government is bringing the law, and one which our board, the regulating body here, the CBDT, are bringing the changes and clarification. So इस perspective से now we will understand. Now income tax समझने के लिए और as the matter of fact any law समझने के लिए, how do you understand the law? You read the law, right? So one is the Bare Act. ये word आप बहुत ज़्यादा सुनोगे. The Bare Act, as in the law which was made, that you have to read to understand what the law is about, what it aims to solve, or what it aims, or what was it for bringing, why we brought this law. All of this would be given in the law. Law के साथ साथ, so to understand, one second, your system is getting hacked. So ऐसे ही income tax को समझने के लिए we have to refer to the Bare Act of Income Tax, which is my Income Tax Act 1961. Each act has an effective date from when it is applicable. So Income Tax Act 1961, इससे पहले when British government was there was Income Tax Act 1922 was going on. For you, obviously, does not matter. For you, there's one income tax, which is Income Tax Act 1961. More than 50 years old act now we are having it. So practically, it contains 298 sections. Section 1, Section 2, Section 3, and so on. But if I talk about the sections in total, or the provisions in total, they are close to 900 sections. अब आप बोलोगे कैसे? So first, let's understand. So one is an act. Each act is then divided into chapters. So chapter 1 will deal about the concept, chapter 2 will deal about this thing, chapter 3 would deal about a particular exemptions, chapter 4 would deal about the heads of income, chapter 6A would deal about the deductions. So these are divided into chapters, just like your syllabus, basically acts are divided into chapters. Then under each chapter, there would be some sections. कि इस chapter में ये sections covered. Okay. And then under each sections, there would be subsections or clauses. And clauses would be further divided into subclauses. So if I'm talking about section 10 of Income Tax Act, or make an habit to write it pura Income Tax Act 1961, or if you are not able to write of the act, at least you should write. Now section 10 of the Income Tax Act, I'm talking about Income Tax Act ka section 10, which may fall in a particular chapters. Very rarely in Income Tax Act you will see the reference of chapters for at your level. So you only would see the reference of sections. तो किसी भी एक्ट को फॉर्म करा, उसको डिवाइड कर दिया into chapters, and then chapters में उससे related particular sections आ गए. So each section would talk about a particular thing. Then it would be written as such. Section 10, clause 2. And on the other hand, section 35, subsection 1. I said this as section 10, clause 2. And when I read this, I read it as section 35, subsection 1. Now, why did I read it as subsection 1 and why the same bracket here I read it as clause has a very interesting meaning to understand. So everything goes in a chronology and number-wise order. Number 1. When I say a particular bracket as a clause of a section, that means that if I have to read section 10 clause 2, it would be an independent clause in it. I don't have to read before that section 10 clause 1 or 10 clause 3. They would not be impacting my 10 clause 2 understanding. I can read this independently. But if I have to read section 35, say subsection 2, so first I have to read about subsection 1. I have to then read about subsection 2, as in they are interrelated. So to understand subsection 2, I have to go through from the starting of subsection 1. So subsection and clauses, हर एक ब्रैकेट का मतलब subsection नहीं होता, हर एक ब्रैकेट का मतलब clause नहीं होता. Every bracket does not mean clause, every bracket does not mean subsection. It has to be understood as after seeing the section that whether section 35 may can I read subsection 2 without directly reading to subsection 1, as in can I gauge the understanding of subsection 2 without understanding subsection 1. These would be interrelated. There would be a connection between these two, then these become subsections of the section. When there is no relation between, say, 10 clause 2 and 10 clause 20, to understand 10 clause 20, I don't have to go chronologically to understand it from clause 1. Then it is called clauses. Got it? है दोनों bracket में, but it is the way we write. So section समझ आया क्या हुआ, subsection समझ आया और clauses समझ आया. Got it? पक्का? So I would love to talk in Hindi and English, but as this is a pan-India class is going, I would restrict myself to English. कहीं पे I would use a smaller version of Hindi just to summarize. In case you still don't understand, you can drop a message and I'll repeat it. Okay. Darshan says revenue from the income tax goes only to the central government. Yes, Darshan. Is the voice better now, Vinay? I'll open one. Which I'll repeat it again. So schedule, Sudhanshu, schedules are generally like an appendix. They are like an extra information which you have to refer to understand the act. So these are appendix to the act, annexures to the act. What I'm saying. I'll show you the example. 1 second, I'll open it. So I'm opening a section in front of you. Now this is my Income Tax Act divided into different sections. Here I open section 10. Now, as you can see, for section 10, this is coming under chapter 3. Section 10, incomes not included in total income is the coverage of my section 10. So section 10 would cover incomes which are not included in total income, which comes under chapter 3. Up section 10 का clause 1 is agricultural income. Section 10 का clause 2A is share of profit earned by partner. अब मुझे अगर this 2A को पढ़ना है, it is not necessary that I have to read agricultural section 1 क्या clause 1 क्या कह रहा है, clause 2 क्या कह रहा है. I can directly come to section 10 clause 2A to understand. Similarly, if I have to read about clause 10C, then I can easily come directly कि 10C क्या कह रहा है. Section 10 है income which do not part form of the total income, and उसका clause 10C says कि if an amount is received or receivable by employee for so and so sectors and etc. So I don't have to go through the entire clauses or to the entire parts which are there above to understand this, because it is working independently. 10C को मैं independently यहीं से start कर सकती हूँ समझना. So this is called my clause. अगर 10C को मुझे पढ़ने से पहले, समझने से पहले मुझे ये सब पढ़ना पड़ता to understand what is actually the relation to the above paragraphs, then those would become subsection. For example, section 35 talks about expenditure on scientific research. But now, if I have to read this 2 or 1A मुझे पढ़ना है, which is the big bracket, I have to understand notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1. That means these paragraphs, these provisions are interrelated. So when they are interrelated, they are called subparts of the section, that is subsections. Got it now? And when they are not interrelated, they are called clauses. So this is how your DARE Act looks. Rahul, is it clear? Then there is a term called provisos and explanation. So अब we will understand what is proviso and explanation. Income Tax Act में chapter is clear, section is clear, subsection is there. These are called subclauses and clauses. Section 35, subsection 1, clause 1, clause 2, and so on. अब proviso क्या होता है? Proviso मतलब provided, comes from the word provided. That means to a particular section, that whatever it's saying, there is some modification or there is some exception. If there is some exception or modification, it would come with the term provided. So जैसे यहाँ पे it's written provided. So that means इस clause के लिए there is a proviso. इसको जहाँ पे ये word आ गया provided, we will call it as proviso. यानी यहाँ पे there is some extra condition or extra modification or different modification, or it can be some exception in relation to that subsection or that clause. अब इसको कैसे नंबर करेंगे? This is called first proviso, this is called second proviso of this, of clause 2. Proviso 1, proviso 2, provided further लिखा होगा. सबसे पहला proviso होगा, it would start with provided. Second proviso would start with provided further, and it will go again with provided further, etc. ठीक है? So provided further. अब अगर if I have to say कि Rima, find out what second proviso to clause 2 of subsection 1 of section 35 says. What would you understand? It would understand second proviso. अब उसको उल्टा चलते हैं. Section 35 subsection 1 clause 2 second proviso. Got it? Section 35 subsection 1 clause 2 second proviso. Then now suppose if I have to say tell me where is first proviso to clause 3 subsection 1 section 35. So you will say section 35 subsection 1 clause 3 का first proviso. This is how you say it in the technical jargon वाला language. Got it? अब यहाँ पे आप ये नहीं बोलोगे वो जो provided लिखा है ना थर्ड ब्रैकेट में छोटे रोमन्स में 35 के अंडर, this is not how you explain when you talk about laws. Not only Income Tax Act, all the acts are understood in these manners. These are sections, these are subsections, these are clauses, these are subclauses, these are provisos. ठीक है? So no one would say it like कि वो छोटा वाला रोमन में जो लिखा हुआ है. It is section 35 subsection 1 clause 3 first proviso. Got it? So provisos are extra modifications or some exceptions to that particular section. अगर वो इसका प्रोवाइजो है तो वो इसके बारे में बताएगा. अगर वो सेक्शन का प्रोवाइजो है तो वो सेक्शन का कुछ एक्सेप्शन देगा. So if it's written at the outer side, it becomes proviso to the section. If it is written इसके under, so it becomes proviso to the clause. Now, next concept is explanation. Now, what are explanation? जैसे यहाँ पे you can see explanation is there. यहाँ पे you can see explanation is there. So explanation can give a certain clarification about a particular subsection or section. मतलब अगर एक and each it would be exclusive for each section and subsection. So explanation of this subsection would not apply to explanation to some other section. Okay, until and unless specifically said. So explanation का मतलब है कि this is giving me some more clarification about this. It can be in a form of definition. It can be a form of a clear-cut condition. So explanations also have to be read along with the sections to understand what the section tries to clarify and cover. Got it? So agar if I want you to say ki, find it on in the explanation to clause 1 of the subsection 1 of section 35. So this is where you have to refer. Got it? Explanation, think clear, section, subsection, clauses, subclauses, proviso. Any doubt? देख लो एक बार, कोई टेंशन नहीं. See, all these things you will get a clarity on the more usage it is. Totally fine. एकदम से नहीं आएगा. आप जितना sections पढ़ोगे, बोलोगे उसको technical term में, law की language में, you will get hold of it. So you don't have to worry कि आज ही सब कुछ मैम we will get pro in everything. धीरे धीरे step by step you will definitely. Krishna, is it clear? So Krishna has one very interesting question, ma'am. Proviso and provisions are different or same? See, proviso means a condition provided for, as in this is an exception or a modification. That is called proviso. Provisions are, provision of section means what the section says. So provisions is different term from proviso. तो कहीं पे भी provision मत लिख देना provision to section or provision to clause so and so. No. Proviso are the conditions which come with provided further. वहाँ पे word provided लिखा होगा for you to understand that this is a proviso. Proviso provided. Provisions are the main context or the main idea of those sections. So when I say as per the income tax law or as per the income tax provisions or as per the provision of section 35, that means as per what section 35 in general is saying. कि वो provision मतलब वो law क्या कह रहा है. So again, to understand income tax, first thing you have to refer is Income Tax Act. अब Income Tax Act कैसे refer करना है वो भी हमने समझ लिया. That we have to go and understand it section wise. Section में देखना है what does the section say, sections का subsection says or clauses say or provisos says and explanation say, and सबको in all in total पढ़ के we will understand what the section is saying. Okay, I cannot skip a proviso to understand the section because a proviso can be a major exception to the provisions of the sections. Okay, so सबको together in all we will understand what income tax is. Now, not only this, but along with that, a person has to understand income tax, the income tax rules. So again, this is not only exclusive for your income tax. Income Tax Act is 1961. Income tax rules is 1962. Now, rules का क्या मतलब होता है? Rules, अगर if I talk about among us, हम कहते हैं ना play by the rules. Rules मतलब these are the ground things which you have to remember that this is how a particular thing has to be conducted, right? अब act बन गया, act has been formed, it has been told that so and so things are applicable and you have to do it in the manner prescribed. You will listen a lot when you understand the term act. It to be done in a particular manner as prescribed, as prescribed, as prescribed. Prescribed matlab as per the rules. So once an act is formed, and be it any act, it is then followed by income tax rules. It is then followed by the rules of that particular act. So for income tax, we have Income Tax Act, and then it is followed by income tax rules, which will contain the form of how a particular thing has to be done. So suppose I have written that provident fund would be taxable as per the for so and so entities as prescribed. अब वो as prescribed क्या है वो I will get to know in rules. That I will get to know in rules. अब the very common example which is a hot topic, that net winnings on games, online games would be taxable. The net winnings will be computed as per the rules prescribed. So rule will now tell me कि how do I have to compute the net winnings. Act ने कह दिया net winnings tax होगा. Rules मुझे बता रहा है कि how do I have to compute the net winnings. Just like this, tell me a proper way of computing, proper way of administrating, proper way of following the provisions which are written in the act. This is not only again for Income Tax Act, Wherever you see the act, there might be chances there would be rules to it. The rules will tell you how to administer those particular provisions of the act. Got it? So Income Tax Act and Income Tax Rule clear. Now we move to understand Finance Act. Now ye kya hai ma'am? What is Finance Act? How many of you know what is Finance Act? What is Finance Act? Budget term suna hai? कि every year budget comes. Itna to now I think we all with the technology are savvy and understand are connected with the government working. Budget सुना है क्या होता है? Every year the budget comes. The government budget. They decide that how our revenue and expenditures would be, what would be our revenue and expenditure sources, what would be our particular expenditure, how much we are allocating to so and so expenditure, how much we are allocating to so and so projects. This is what budget comes. Okay. Now, budget, if ever you have heard the speech of the finance minister, it is produced in the form of a bill. Any act, when it is introduced in the parliament, is introduced not as an act, it is introduced as a bill. Introduced matlab the central government is proposing the bill. Bill, once, this is a basic political science, bills once gets the majority of or the passing of both the houses, which is your Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Once that is done, it goes to the president for his final approval. Once that is done, then that bill forms the shape of the act. So bill is what a law is introduced, that we propose to introduce this bill in the Lok Sabha. So they will never use the word act. So bill is what is introduced in the parliament, and once it gets approval of the houses, it is passed with majority, and as then goes to the president, gets his approval, then that bill becomes the act. Similarly, budget may, if you have heard the speech, the finance minister start with, I now propose the provisions of the finance bill. The finance bill matlab उस साल का budget, basic for you to understand. Every year a finance bill comes and it would link to that particular financial year. So finance bill 2022 talks about your financial year 22-23 mein what are our expectations, how are we meeting it, what are the sources of revenue, what are the revenue cuts, what are the expenditure cuts, what are the expenditure allocations, everything. ठीक है, ऐसे ही finance bill 23 would come with the major provisions impacting the financial year 23-24 or the coming part of the year. ठीक है. Now once this bill passes, it becomes Finance Act. अब ये finance bill क्यों लाते हैं? One I told you is it tells us about the expenditures and revenue and their allocation. Also, the finance bills are introduced if the government wants to make any changes in the Income Tax Act. Any amendments. Changes matlab amendments in law. If they want to make any change under the Income Tax Act, they cannot change the act every time. So they bring Finance Act. Finance bill once approved, Finance Act ban jata hai, and whatever changes the Finance Act proposes gets amended in your Income Tax Act. Ab suppose Finance Act ne kaha ki so and so section has to be removed. So once the Finance bills become the Finance Act, it would have an impact on the Income Tax Act by removing that section. So kahin pe bhi if you see The changes in the Income Tax Act, those would have been brought by the Finance Act. Let me show you an example. Imam Kaise. So, like for example, this section was introduced by Finance Act 2023. So यहाँ पे क्या change आया? Income Tax Act में change आया. But how did that change came? That change came through Finance Act. So if the government intends to make any changes in the Income Tax Act, they prima facie would come from the Finance Act, which is get passed every year, and that is passed somewhere between March. It is proposed in the budget section, which is ongoing budget session, and the date for proposal of budget is 1st February of every year. It gets passed in 2 months time. Generally March end ke time pe the bills get passed and it becomes act, and once it becomes act, the changes becomes applicable in the Income Tax Act. Got it? Yes, one finance bill per year, but when it's an year of the central government elections, there can be two finance bill. One just before the election, which would be in February, and once when a new government is formed. Very good, Sayed. Yes, when any bill, कोई भी चीज एक्ट बनने से पहले it would be a bill. Yes, modifications can be done at a later stage by Parliament, but then वो कोई और bill लेके आएंगे, like tax amendment law के under or tax amendment bill or some ordinance would come. A very important question Darshan has asked: why is it necessary to amend the act every year, ma'am? Does it affect the consistency? Consistency. See, every year you are just updating the act as per the present scenarios. Now, to give you an example, Income Tax Act 1961 ka act which was formed, how much you think would be relevant if it would not have been amended? अगर उसमें changes नहीं आए होते, वो आज की डेट पे कितना relevant होते? नहीं, right? Why? Because वहां पे उस टाइम पे scenarios were different. उस टाइम पे digital India was not there. उस टाइम पे online gaming were not there. So उस टाइम पे the act was made as per the understanding of those business scenarios. But every year there is a shift in business scenarios. A COVID came. COVID के according the government को has to build up a plan. तो वो क्या करेंगे? They will wait for the budget to come and they will propose the finance bill there, or they will come up with a taxation amendment law or something like that. Okay, so they have to continuously update the situations as per the current सिनेरियोस. एक तो हो गया कि पूरा का पूरा स्क्रैप कर दो, बट स्क्रैपिंग एन एक्ट ऑल टुगेदर एंड ब्रिंगिंग इनकम टैक्स एक्ट ऑल टुगेदर इज नॉट एन इजी टास्क. 900 सेक्शंस को स्क्रैप नहीं कर सकते, राइट? सो दैट्स व्हाई जहां जहां अमेंडमेंट रिक्वायर्ड है वो फाइनेंस एक्ट में दे टेल, देन दैट अमेंडमेंट गेट inculcated in your income tax act. So as it much you think it might impact the consistency, Darshan, it also is very important to stay relevant in today's time. तो सारा का सारा सी इनकम टैक्स एक्ट पढ़ेंगे हम, उसमें लेटेस्ट चेंजेस जो एक्ट लेके आया वो पढ़ेंगे। अब नेक्स्ट ईयर ऑफ द चेंजेस कम, तो वो थोड़े से प्रोविजन चेंज होंगे ना, ऑल टुगेदर कॉन्सेप्ट वुड नॉट बी चेंज, राइट? सो ऑल टुगेदर आपका पूरा का पूरा एक्ट चेंज नहीं हो रहा, सम पर्टिकुलर सेक्शंस आर गेटिंग चेंज और सम पर्टिकुलर सेक्शंस आर गेटिंग अमेंडेड और देयर इज अ स्मॉल एडिशन, दैट इज टोटली फाइन। अब क्वेश्चन कम्स कि मैम हमारे लिए विच चेंजेस आर एप्लीकेबल। So for you at your level, at your attempt, so if you are appearing in November 23 attempt, for you, Finance Act 22 is applicable. That means whatever changes are there being brought up by Finance Act 2022 would be applicable and not the latest one which was passed 4 months back, or that is Finance Act 23. अभी जो मैं आपको ऑनलाइन गेमिंग का सेक्शन बता रही थी वो 23 ने लाया, so that section would not be applicable because Finance Act 22 के changes are applicable, plus whatever circulars and notifications and other changes have been brought up till 30th April. Check it again, is it 30th April or not? So 30th April 2023. So for you, these things, these particular bill and these particular sections and notifications are applicable. Now you will come to a question, ma'am, what are circular and notifications? अब circulars and see act बन जाता है, act बनाना is not a difficult task. Act में आपने intent clear करा, you got an intent clear, you got the things all together and you brought the act. The difficult thing is implementation of the act and relevancy of the act from changing times to time. How relevant that act stays to the present time is extremely important, right? So one thing is they will bring changes through Finance Act, fine. But then there are administration clarification which has to be required. Some guidelines have to be issued, keeping in mind the stakeholders, keeping in mind the industry holders, keeping in mind the difficulties a person is coming or facing. So those come through circulars and notifications. अब circulars and notifications क्या है? Circulars, C for circulars, C for clarification. There are certain clarifications with the CBDT. CBDT, remember the board? The board tells about some doubts. So suppose I have a doubt ki how would I calculate TCS on, don't worry about the terms which you're hearing, TCS on motor vehicles. So they come up with FAQs, they come up with frequently asked questions, they come up with certain guidelines to help us understand that how a particular thing has to be calculated, what would be covered, what would not be covered, taking in mind the present scenario. So sometimes a provision comes, a section is introduced, but rule is also introduced, rule is there for that section. But again, some clarification is required. So people write to the CBDT. CBDT thinks it would impact public and in large, they come up with those clarifications. Okay, that is called circulars. Now, what are notifications? Notifications are generally issued by and is only issued by central government. They give certain, what do you say, certain as if you have heard, I'll just simply quote the language of law. This provision would not be applicable to the persons notified by the central government. तो इसका क्या मतलब हुआ? Act में लिखा है this provision would not be applicable to person notified by central government. That means central government has the right to give certain rights to a particular type of assessee. So that particular type of assessee को कौन notify होगा, कौन नहीं होगा, that comes under notification. So notification would tell that so and so person has given relaxation from so and so provision. So this generally central government or CBDT has the right to give you notifications. Circulars are clarifications. They are just guiding light. Notifications are again वहां पे एक्ट में लिखा हुआ है as notified, but who are notified, what who would be coming in those relaxation, वो central government बताएगा through notification. So circular clarification notifications again are given to tell you what who would have the effect of those particular relaxation of those particular benefits, or who would not have the impact of those particular relaxation of benefits. Sometimes the dates gets extended to particular section by notification. So this comes under your official gazette. Government official gazette में notification लाएगी and then it would be applicable accordingly. So income tax act को समझने के लिए act पढ़ेंगे. We will understand the rules. We will understand the amendments brought in by the Finance Act, and we will understand circulars and notification to get a holistic understanding of what income tax law is. उसके बाद आ जाता है case laws. Now, what is case laws? Case laws, my friends, are judgments. You can use the word judgment. You can use the word judicial pronouncements. Or you can use the word rulings. So what are these, ma'am? How does these case law judgment help us understand the act? But this is extremely important. Interpretation is one such thing which is different for all. The understanding of provision can be different for you and can be different for me. I might be reading it exact between the lines and you might be reading it holistically. Aapka interpretation can be different from mine, and there can be clashes. So suppose I have interpreted a section in a way, I filed my income return in a way, understanding that provision, but you being an income tax officer interpreted it in a different manner. आपके according at का मतलब at है, मेरे according at का मतलब to भी हो सकता है. So just small words play a major role behind the interpretation and understanding of the sections. So sometimes clashes happen between multiple people or multiple parties or authorities. So to get a clarification on it, वो central government के पास तो नहीं जाएंगे, go to appellate authorities, जिसको आप appeal कर सकते हो, like your tribunals, high courts, Supreme Court. Supreme Court is the final say on the act. It's a final supreme authority. So unka judgments would help us understand the income tax act better. क्यों? क्योंकि उनकी judgment के according whatever is the interpretation going for that particular problem or for that particular provision would stand relevant. So सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने अगर बता दिया कि इस प्रोविजन को ऐसे समझना है, तो मैं उस प्रोविजन को ऐसे ही समझूंगी, उस प्रोविजन का मतलब वैसे ही निकालूंगी. The Supreme Court have told me that this provision means this and benefits this person. So in future, I can take reference from the judgment, and not only me, you, her, everyone around you can take the benefit of that judgment in understanding that provision. And again, this is not only case laws, does not only help to understand income tax act, case laws helps to understand the relevant act. हर एक act का जहाँ पे Supreme Court का judgment है, that is the highest judgment, that is the final say on the law. So whatever Supreme Court has told, that would stay as the final interpretation or the final word of the law. And that I will apply to my scenario if applicable. कि हाँ सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने X पर्सन की जजमेंट में इस मैटर पे ये कहा था, एंड सिंस मेरा मैटर भी सेम है, I would apply the same judgment, I would apply the same principles. So even if सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने मेरे लिए वो रूलिंग नहीं दिया, I was not the party of that case, But since it's a Supreme Court say and the matter is similar, I can apply the principles and judgment of Supreme Court in my case and understand it. Okay. So Supreme Court का final say है, it is applicable to all. High courts का stay are applicable to the jurisdiction of High Court. So Delhi High Court ने कोई judgment दिए, that would be applicable to the Delhi people. बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट ने कोई जजमेंट दिया, दैट वुड बी एप्लीकेबल टू द बॉम्बे पीपल. सेम मैटर पे दिल्ली ने कोई जजमेंट दिया है, बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट ने कोई जजमेंट दिया है, तो उन एरियाज में द जजमेंट वुड बी एप्लीकेबल. गॉट इट? सो आपके लेवल पे यू डोंट हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड केस लॉस टू अंडरस्टैंड इनकम टैक्स एक्ट. दैट इज देयर एट योर फाइनल लेवल. So can I conclude saying that to understand, first of all, अभी तक हमने क्या पढ़ा? अभी तक हमने समझा कि there is a term called tax, then there's a term called direct tax and indirect tax. Direct tax means something which I directly pay to the government. Indirect tax is when I pay, but ultimately the deposit has to be done by some third party. That is called indirect tax. These are source for revenue. For us, direct tax is Income Tax Act, which we'll be studying from now onwards. Income Tax Act को समझने के लिए, to understand Income Tax Act, we have to understand different sources of the law, which is first obviously the Income Tax Act in itself, which is effective from which was actually passed in 1961 and is effective from 1962. उसके साथ साथ we have to understand rules. Act will contain the provisions. Rule will contain that how to administer those provisions, how to work upon those provisions, how to play by the rules. Remember that thing and you will understand the rules. Then every year Finance Act comes, which will bring changes as per the relevant scenario in the Income Tax Act. So we have to understand those Finance Act also. So for you, Finance Act 2022 tak whatever changes have been brought up to the Income Tax Act are relevant for you. Then Finance Act के साथ साथ I have to understand कि circulars and notifications क्या ला रहा है department, what clarifications the department is getting, what notifications कि यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ था as per the date notified. So what is the date notified? उसके लिए I have to see कि notification has been issued or not. If notification has been issued, so what is the date notified into it? Clarification and general guidelines for helping us understand that how a particular thing has to be taken up, how a particular thing has to be calculated, what are the things which we can keep in mind, what are the scenarios which can happen. So they are just clarification. मैं आपको clarify कर रही हूँ कि ये ऐसा है ताकि आपको समझ आए. This is called clarification. This clarifications are given by CBDT, notifications are given by CBDT or central government. Then there are case laws to understand Income Tax Act. Income Tax Act का ये provision क्या कहता है? What does the provision of this Income Tax Act actually means or actually can be interpreted? For that, I would understand if there is any judgment in this relation issued by Supreme Court or not. अगर Supreme Court ने इस relation में कोई किसी के matter में judgment दिया है, so I will understand कि वो judgment क्या था. And same way I will apply in my case if it is similar. और सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जजमेंट नहीं है, देन आई विल रेफर एनी हाई कोर्ट का जजमेंट है. इफ हाई कोर्ट का जजमेंट है तो सपोज आई एम इन दिल्ली, तो दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट का कोई जजमेंट है, और सपोज आई एम इन बॉम्बे, देन बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट का जजमेंट है ऑन द सेम मैटर. इफ आई एम इन दिल्ली एंड बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट का जजमेंट है, एंड इफ देयर इज नो कंक्लूडिंग जजमेंट ऑफ माय हाई कोर्ट, आई कैन टेक हेल्प ऑफ इट. ठीक है, इन सबको समझकर एवरी डे CA or every day a consultant gives advices on different matters. So they will not only refer to one thing to understand a particular case. If you come to me for some advice on tax matter, I will refer to all those things applicable and then give you an advice. Okay, so Income Tax Act or Income Tax Law को समझने के लिए all these things have to be taken together to understand it. तो इनकम टैक्स एक्ट पास हुआ 1961 में, बट एप्लीकेबल हुआ आपको 1 अप्रैल 1962 से. गॉट इट? अब देश, राइट? Circulars and notifications are available online in income tax website. Yes, Darshan. As you can be income tax India, mein we saw that we can see how the income tax act, the circulars and notification seen. Each circular and notification has a different number assigned to it, and for every year the number change. Once the act is amended by the Finance Act, so the rules are also amended, ma'am. Very good question. Finance Act would amend the act, which is the provisions, which are the sections, and uske related rules also would be brought in by notifications. Rules and rulings are different. Yes, they are different. Rulings matlab judgment, case laws, judicial pronouncements, orders. Rules are the act ka rules. They are passed generally in and around the same time when the act is passed. कि administration कैसे होगा जब तक rules नहीं होंगे? How would administration go? So rules for administration, rulings for interpretation. This is how you can understand. So the answer, yes, judgment may vary from state to state on different matters. Apex court, Manisha, apex matlab the topmost is the Supreme Court. And country like India has only one Supreme Court. WEF means with effect from. Fiscal budget quota means financial budget only. ठीक है, चले आगे. अब कुछ जैसे अब हम इनकम टैक्स एक्ट को समझने लगे हैं, इनकम टैक्स लॉ को समझने लगे हैं. Some important points which you would, or some important definitions which you should know is what we will cover now. I'm not skipping this, I'll come to it, don't worry. कुछ चीजें, कुछ words which are extremely important to understand income tax is what now we will try to understand. Okay, किसी को कोई doubt है? Shall I move forward? इनकम टैक्स एक्ट जयदेव 1961 में बन चुका है. इट वुड बिकम माय इनकम टैक्स एक्ट 1961. अब उसमें थोड़े थोड़े चेंजेस लाने हैं, दैट आई विल ब्रिंग एवरी ईयर एज पर फाइनेंस एक्ट. So if again I talk about in general, section 2 of this act, section 2 is defined, would give you definitions which are relevant in the act. Section 2 मेरे को major definition दे देगा which would be relevant throughout. ठीक है, one is that. One is, so section 2, and not only of income tax act, section 2 of all the relevant acts tell about the definitions in general. Again, income tax act will be, section 2 tells me about the definitions of different things. सबसे common चीज assessee. who would be assessee, who is the person, who is the what is the term income, what is the term assessment year means, what is the term previous year means. ये सब कहाँ से आता है? Definition section से, which is my section 2. Along with that, some explanations would be there. To particular sections which will tell me about the term of or about the meaning of a particular word or about the definition of a particular word. Kahin jagah you will see explanation में it would be written that what does so and so act means, what does so and so property means. So that is given in the explanation of a particular section. It will apply to the explanation of a particular section only. It will not apply to the other sections in general until unless it is written. ठीक है? Then अगर कोई ऐसा चीज है जिसका मीनिंग नहीं दिया हुआ है एक्ट में, तो उसको कैसे इंटरप्रिटेट करना है मैम? सपोज लाइक agriculture word is not defined in my income tax act, so how do I have to interpret agriculture? So that I have to take it as per the general meaning. But whatever is defined in my income tax act, I have to go as per the definitions of those terms only. So suppose dividend is defined for me under the income tax act, तो मेरे लिए dividend का मतलब is there, which is there as per the income tax act, not the dividend as per the dictionary meaning, right? Similarly, capital asset has been defined for me in the income tax act. So मेरे लिए capital asset का मतलब would be as per the income tax act. I cannot go to the dictionary meaning to understand it. वहां पे जो inclusions exclusions है, that would stay for me for the income tax act. Up suppose all the terms cannot be given under section 2, so this sometimes comes as explanation under different sections. हर एक section में कभी कभार through explanation they tell about the meaning of so and so fund. अब वहां पे लिखा हुआ है म्यूचुअल फंड, अब वो कौन सा म्यूचुअल फंड है वो एक्सप्लेनेशन में दिया हुआ है. So explanation would apply to that particular section. Section 2 का definitions in general would apply to all the act, to the entire act, until and unless something in proviso is written for it. So if I have to repeat in Hindi, explanation में भी कभी कभार definition दिया होता है. That definition would apply to that particular provision of the section. ठीक है, वो definition उसी section के provision पे apply होगा. But जो section 2 में definitions दिया हुआ है वो apply होगा पूरे act को. Okay, got it? Now सेक्शन 2 इज माय डेफिनेशंस का सेक्शन. हर एक चीज का वहां पे डिफाइंड है जो जरूरी है. लाइक इफ आई हैव टू शो टू यू, लेट्स सी. So this is now section 2. Section 2 मतलब definitions. अब इसको what will I say? Section 2 clause 1A. I'll not say section 2 clause 1 because agricultural income को समझने के लिए I don't have to understand कि clause 1 में क्या लिखा हो. So section 2 clause 1A. एग्रीकल्चर इनकम डिफाइंड है सेक्शन 2 में, बट एग्रीकल्चर डिफाइंड नहीं है. तो उसको समझने के लिए आई कैन से अ जनरल अंडरस्टैंडिंग क्या होता है. ठीक है, सो वट एवर इज डिफाइंड अंडर द एक्ट वुड अप्लाई फॉर द एक्ट. व्हाट इज नॉट डिफाइंड इन द एक्ट एट ऑल, उसका जनरल मीनिंग इन कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ द एक्ट आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड. व्हाट इज डिफाइंड इन अ पर्टिकुलर सेक्शन, दैट डेफिनेशन वुड स्टे फॉर दैट पर्टिकुलर सेक्शन. समझ आया? Now, some of the common terms which you have to understand as we go ahead is first term is called assessee. ये term हम बहुत यूज करने वाले हैं. assessee क्या होता है? What is assessee? What is assessee? What is assessee? So assessee in general means अगर आपको एक बेसिक टर्म में बोलूं तो टैक्स पेयर. इनकम टैक्स के अकॉर्डिंग assessee is a taxpayer. Now, what is taxpayer, ma'am? So, if I have to read the definition, any person who has to pay tax to the government is an assessee. Simple. या उस पे कोई कार्यवाही चल रही है एज पर इनकम टैक्स एक्ट, दैट पर्सन इज ऑल्सो असेसिंग. तो एनी पर्सन who has to pay tax or on whom the tax is payable, that is assessee, or any person जिसके against any proceedings are going, that is also an assessee, or any person who is deemed to be an assessee. वो assessee नहीं है but उसको माना जाएगा. But for you to understand at this stage, when you are just your first class of income tax act, just say कि assessee मतलब tax पे या वो person जिसके against कोई प्रोसीडिंग्स चल रहा है, एज सिंपल एज दैट. ठीक है. नाउ व्हाट इज असेसमेंट? ये टर्म भी बहुत सुनोगे. यहाँ पे भी अभी आपने पढ़ा, every person in respect of whom any proceeding under this act has been taken for the assessment of income. What is assessment? See, assessment मतलब when I have to assess something. क्या होता है इनकम टैक्स में? What happens in income tax? You as an assessee will tell me that ma'am, I am an income tax officer, that ma'am, this is my income, these are my taxes, this is what I have earned during the year. I, as an assessing officer, would make an assessment whether it is right or not. That is, I will make a checking of the income which you have told. So it's a procedure to determine the income of the assessee. I will make an assessment of it ki haan, whether it is right or wrong. I can make an assessment as per general general provisions, or I can make an assessment if I think something is fishy. ओके. अगर मुझे लग रहा है कि आपने सही नहीं बताया तब मैं असेसमेंट कर सकती हूँ, या मैं एक जनरल रैंडम असेसमेंट भी कर सकती हूँ. ठीक है. तो दैट इज कॉल्ड असेसमेंट. असेसी क्लियर, असेसमेंट क्लियर. अब व्हाट आर पर्सन? ये बहुत प्यारी चीज है. पर्सन इज डिफाइंड अंडर सेक्शन 2 क्लॉज 31. Section 2 clause 31 defines person. Now person are not you, me. Person यहाँ पे income tax में are different tax entities. They are taxable entities. Different types की है. Person में they have defined person includes individual, HUF, company, firm, AOP, BOI, local authority एन आर्टिफिशियल जुरिडिकल पर्सन. मतलब पर्सन इनकम टैक्स के लिए इज नॉट मूविंग और फिजिकल पर्सन who can be seen and who can talk. पर्सन इनकम टैक्स के लिए इज अ कंपनी ऑल्सो. तो इनकम टैक्स में सबसे पहले व्हेन यू सॉ असेसी, तो असेसी में लिखा हुआ था एनी पर्सन. अब क्वेश्चन आता है कि ये पर्सन वर्ड का क्या मतलब है? पर्सन मतलब दे इंक्लूड दीज कैटेगरीज. इंक्लूडेड यही है इंडिविजुअल, HUA, company, firm, AOP, BY, local authorities and artificial juridical person. Now you will ask कि मैम individual तो समझ आता है, but ये बाकी terms हमारे लिए they are new things. Naturally होगा. So let's understand what these terms means. Like individual means, when I talk about individual assessee, that means like people like you and me who are human beings. So if a taxpayer is an individual, like either you, either me, our parents, so human beings are individual. ठीक है. इंडिविजुअल मतलब उसकी खुद की इनकम पे क्या टैक्स बन रहा है वो देगा. ये एक टैक्स आइडेंटिटी हो गया फॉर द इनकम टैक्स. नाउ व्हाट इज HUF? हिंदू अनडिवाइडेड फैमिली. किसी को पता है व्हाट इज HUF? व्हाट इज HUF? Hindu family business. Okay, Vinay, very good attempt. Joint Hindu undivided family. Very good, Arya. इन द फैमिली बिजनेस, ओके। तो एचयूएफ समझना बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग, बढ़िया चीज है। Hindu undivided families, first of all, this is not something which is born, it's a concept of law. There is already a family where it's not has to be created, it is already there. आपको फैमिली को क्रिएट नहीं करना, मैं आज अपने फादर की फैमिली का पार्ट हूँ, you are part of your father family, tomorrow if you get married you will have a family. This is a concept which we all know, right? So Hindu undivided family person कैसे है, tax payer कैसे है? So for income tax the family is different entity from individual. Family में individual नहीं है, but HUF is a separate entity from individual perspective. Individual अलग है, उसका HUF अलग है। HUF अलग काम करेगा, इंडिविजुअल अलग काम करेगा। इंडिविजुअल का खुद का इनकम होगा, HUF का खुद का इनकम होगा। दिस इज कॉल्ड सेपरेट टैक्स एंटिटी। So even if individual is a part of that family, but from tax perspective, the family and individual are two different types of person. Are two different types of person. So Hindu undivided family में there is a common property through which a business is running. A common property, not only a property, a corpus, कैपिटल है जिससे बिजनेस रन हो रहा है और उससे फैमिली को इनकम हो रहा है। तो उस पर टैक्स कौन देगा? उस पर टैक्स एचयूएफ देगा, क्योंकि वो एचयूएफ का इनकम है। तो उस पर टैक्स कौन देगा? कॉमन प्रॉपर्टी से एक बिजनेस हो रहा है, उस पर वट एवर यूर अर्निंग, कॉमन कॉर्पस, आई शुड यूज द वर्ड, उससे वट एवर द फैमिली इज अर्निंग, वो एचयूएफ का इनकम है, बिकॉज एचयूएफ इज अ सेपरेट एंटिटी। अब मैम हिंदू अनडिवाइडेड फैमिली मतलब हिंदू ओनली अनडिवाइडेड फैमिली। सो दिस अगेन HUF is not defined under income tax act anywhere. HUF comes from the understanding of Hindu Succession Act, जहां पे हिंदू अनडिवाइडेड फैमिली बताया है। इनकम टैक्स एक्ट ने बस इतना बता दिया कि हिंदू अनडिवाइडेड फैमिली इज अ सेपरेट कैटेगरी ऑफ पर्सन, बट what is Hindu undivided family? That comes from the understanding of Hindu Succession Act. Law में students जब आप कुछ पढ़ रहे हो and उसका definition is not given in that act, then you pick up the definition from the next relevant act. Okay, instead of directly going to the Oxford Dictionary, you pick up the definition from the next relevant act. So Hindu undivided family is defined as per Hindu Succession Act. क्या होता है? Hindu undivided family is a family which has common corpus, has 4 generation, male ancestor है, उनके बच्चे, उनके बच्चों के बच्चे, उनके बच्चों के बच्चे बच्चे, till 4th generation can form a Hindu undivided family. So if ये ध्यान से समझना guys, so if there is X, Mr. X अभी तक is an individual. Now when Mr. X has a family, यहाँ पे Mrs. X आ गए, उनका सन आ गए B and C, then ये एक फैमिली बन गया। दिस इज नॉट कहीं पे आप जाके फैमिली को रजिस्टर नहीं करा रहे। द मोमेंट इट इज बोर्न, इट्स लाइक अ इट्स नॉट क्रिएटेड स्पेसिफिकली, इट्स देयर, राइट? सो वंस मिस्टर एक्स मिसेज एक्स हो गए, बच्चे हो गए, 2 जनरेशन आ गया, इट बिकम्स फैमिली। एंड द मोमेंट इट बिकम्स फैमिली, it gets covered Hindu family, it gets covered under HUF. Now you will say कि मैम Hindu undivided family में only Hindu? No, Buddhist, Jainism, Sikhism also comes under the HUF का meaning. This is given under the Hindu Succession Act. So Buddhist undivided family, Sikhs undivided family, Jains undivided families are also covered under HUF. Now Mr. X, Mrs. X, B and C का अगर कोई कॉमन प्रॉपर्टी है, फैमिली में कॉमन प्रॉपर्टी होती है, एंसेस्ट्रल प्रॉपर्टी चल रहा है या कॉर्पस है जो सबका लिए कॉमन है, एंड उससे कुछ आ रहा है, दैट वुड बी पार्ट ऑफ द HUF एंड दैट वुड बी योर HUF। अब कोई बिजनेस को चलाने के लिए एक मैनेजर जरूरी होता है। दैट मैनेजर इन केस ऑफ HUF इज कॉल्ड कर्ता। कर्ता इज द एल्डेस्ट मेंबर ऑफ द family. Eldest member of the family would be कर्ता by law. हम हिंदू वैल्यूज के अकॉर्डिंग चल रहे हैं टू अंडरस्टैंड HUF। हिंदुइज्म में द एल्डेस्ट मेंबर इज द मैनेजर, So he is the कर्ता. Remaining person are called co-partners. So B and C are called co-partners and members. And Mrs. X is a member. अब आप बोलोगे मैम ये को पार्टनर क्यों है, ये मेंबर क्यों है? व्हेन यू आर बोर्न इन द फैमिली बाय बर्थ, व्हेन यू एंटर द फैमिली बाय बर्थ, यू बिकम अ को पार्टनर. अब वो बी डॉटर हो या सन हो, डज नॉट मैटर. एक्स वो सेम फैमिली में ब्लड रिलेशन में बी एंड सी वो बोर्न, so they are become co-partner. Those who come from outside and becomes part of the family, they are called member. वो family का part है, but they are not co-partner, they are members. So if tomorrow Mrs. B comes in, यानी B की wife, so she would be a member, she would not be a co-partner. C की wife आती है, तो Mrs. C would be a member, not a co-partner. है ये family, फैमिली में कौन होगा? कर्ता होगा. कर्ता इज लाइक अ मैनेजर हु वुड टेक ऑल द डिसीजंस, एंड बाकी सब मेंबर्स होंगे. मेंबर्स को-पार्टनर्स बनेंगे व्हेन दे आर बोर्न इनटू दैट फैमिली. अदर पीपल हु कम थ्रू मैरिज, those would be the members. ठीक है, एचयूएफ डिफरेंट है. एक्स, मिसेज एक्स, बी, सी, ये सब एक सेपरेट इंडिविजुअल्स हैं. ये सब अपनी इनकम पे रिटर्न भरेंगे. एचयूएफ अपनी इनकम पे रिटर्न भरेगा, अपनी इनकम पे टैक्सेस पे करेगा. एचयूएफ क्लियर? ले रहे हैं जयदेव भाई, ले रहे हैं, ब्रेक लेते हैं. अभी इतना बेसिक समझना. अभी ये मिताक्षर, दया, भाग्य, मैं उसमें नहीं घुस रही. रादर स्टूडेंट्स, आज का क्लास इज नॉट अ क्लास जिसका आपको पेपर में डायरेक्ट आएगा, बट आज का क्लास इज अ क्लास विच विल मेक कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ योर अंडरस्टैंडिंग द इनकम टैक्स एक्ट फर्दर. ठीक है, सो दिस क्लास वुड फॉर्म अ बेस क्लास फॉर ऑल द क्लासेस टू कम. ठीक है, आई विल बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, यहाँ से कुछ डायरेक्टली पेपर से उठ के नहीं आएगा कि प्लीज एक्सप्लेन एचयूएफ. बट एचयूएफ समझ आ गया तो कहीं पे भी एचयूएफ का डेफिनेशन, कॉन्टेक्स्ट है, समझ आ जाएगा. सेक्शन, हाउ टू रीड आउट द सेक्शन समझ आ गया. सो थ्रू आउट द इनकम टैक्स एक्ट आपको सेक्शन का मतलब समझ आ जाएगा कि हाउ आर पीपल कॉलिंग इट, व्हाट सेक्शन. ओके गाइस, जो पूछा है प्लीज अभी साथ साथ चलो. डू नॉट peek ahead. You must be attending classes. You must know. No problem in it. But please stay together. HUF cannot consist of single member when it is formed. As in a family बनने के लिए दो जनरेशन होना चाहिए. हाँ, उसके बाद some X person gets diseased और एक बच्चा है, तो वो अपने फादर का HUF का पार्ट है, अपने फादर का फैमिली का पार्ट है. यहाँ पे आई विल एक्सप्लेन इट. तो आप ऐसे देखिए, मिस्टर एक्स, HUF का मतलब है अ हिंदू अनडिवाइडेड फैमिली जिसमें सब उसके मेंबर्स है. बट अब वो मेंबर्स करता है या को पार्टनर है, वो कैसे पता चले? मिस्टर एक्स गेट मैरिड टू मिसेस एक्स, देन दे हैव सन बी एंड सी. ठीक है, नाउ दिस इज अ फैमिली ऑफ होम एक्स का, दिस वुड बी कॉल्ड एक्स HUF. इसका नाम ही जनरली एक्स HUF हो जाएगा. ठीक है, अब मिस्टर, अभी तक मिस्टर एक्स is a type of person as individual, Mrs. X is an individual, B and C are also individual. ठीक है, और एक्स HUF उन्होंने फॉर्म कर लिया जहां पे उनका कॉमन कॉर्पस है. थोड़ा थोड़ा सा कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन डाल के उन लोगों ने कॉमन फैमिली धन रेडी कर लिया, कॉमन प्रॉपर्टी रेडी कर लिया. गॉट इट? अब इस कॉर्पस को मैनेज करने के लिए कौन होगा? द एल्डर मेंबर हु वुड बी कॉल्ड कर्ता। ठीक है, ये भी समझ आ गया। अब एल्डेस्ट मेंबर इज कर्ता, सो फैमिली में मेंबर्स होते हैं सब। अब मिस्टर एक्स का डेजिग्नेशन क्या हो गया? कर्ता। But at the same time, since B and C are born into the family, they are given a title of co-partners. Co-partners. ठीक है, B and C, X, Mr. X, ये सब member हैं family के. All persons we taught, we said about are members. But now, Mr. X is karta as a member, B and C are co-partners. And Mrs. X, since she was not born into the family, but was brought up into the family by marriage, so she is just a member. जो उस फैमिली में बॉर्न होता है टिल फोर्थ जनरेशन इज अ co-partner. जो उस फैमिली में ज्वाइन हो रहा है बाय मैरिज रिमेन्स मेंबर ओनली. So if tomorrow Mrs. B come, she would be not a co-partner, she would be a member. And if Mrs. C come, she would be a member. अब मैम को पार्टनर और मेंबर में क्या डिफरेंस है? सी डिफरेंस इज कि को पार्टनर कल को पार्टीशन मांग सकता है. को पार्टनर कैन आस्क कि अब मेरे को इस फैमिली का पार्ट नहीं बनना, आई एम सेपरेटिंग माई सेल्फ, तो दे कैन आस्क फॉर पार्टीशन. दैट इज कॉल्ड, दैट इज अ पावर ऑफ को पार्टनर. मिसेस बी कल को नहीं हो सकती कि इस प्रॉपर्टी का बंटवारा करो, बी बोलेगा, बी डिमांड कर सकता है पार्टीशन. ओके, अब एक तो ये हो गया एक्स का फैमिली का पार्ट, एक्स एच. अब कल को मिस्टर बी एंड मिसेस बी के आगे बच्चे होते हैं ए एंड एम. सो अब वो बी का फैमिली एक अलग से स्मॉल एच बन गया बी एच करके. अब बी एच अपना धन जोड़ेगा. सी हैव अ बिगर पिक्चर इन माइंड, फैमिलीज का पिक्चर माइंड में रखो, समझ आएगा. बी अपना खुद का एच फॉर्म क्या करेगा? एच ऑलरेडी है, द मोमेंट चिल्ड्रन आर बॉर्न आपका एच बन गया. बी का एच हो गया, अब वो वहां पे खुद का कॉर्पस मेंटेन करेंगे. अब इसका कुछ होगा, उसका कर्ता कौन होगा? बी. ही बीइंग द एल्डेस्ट मेंबर ऑफ इनका फैमिली, वो बी उनका कर्ता होगा. ए एंड एम को पार्टनर बन जाएंगे किसमें? बी के एच में. एंड दे आर ऑल्सो को पार्टनर्स इन एक्स का एच बिकॉज दे आर बोर्न इन द सेम फैमिली. So एक person can be a co-partner in different HUF. I can be a co-partner in my Dada's HUF and I can be a co-partner in my father HUF, but I will not be a co-partner in my husband HUF. उसमें I would be a member. This is how HUF work. इतना समझ लोगे ना, I can guarantee HUF की इतनी समझ भी फाइनल ईयर के स्टूडेंट्स में नहीं होगी. ठीक है, सो इतना समझ लो, सिंपल रहेगा. सो अब हर एक पर्सन अपने में एक इंडिविजुअल टैक्स पेयर है, प्लस वो जो कॉर्पोरेट मेंटेन करते हैं अंडर द कॉमन फैमिली, उसके लिए दे विल पे सेपरेटली टैक्स एज एन एचयूएफ. So this is a taxable entity. This is a taxable entity as HUF. They are taxable entities as individuals. Got it? So इसके साथ we'll take 5-7 minutes का break and we'll be back and we will understand about firms, company, LLPs, all of these. Okay? See you after 5 minutes. So break पे जाने से पहले we were discussing about HUF. Before going on break, we were discussing about HUF, and I see some question are there. सबसे पहले guys, it's not co-partner, it's co-partner. ठीक है? चलता है first time we are listening all these terms. Now X अपनी फैमिली की HUF के लिए co-partner होंगे या member? Mrs. X मिस्टर एक्स HUF में मेंबर होगा. ओके प्रियकांत. सी सब मेंबर्स है HUF के, सब मेंबर्स है. अब वो करता है, वो कौन होगा? द एल्डेस्ट मेंबर. अब वो को पार्टनर है, वो कौन कौन होंगे? दोज हु आर बोर्न इन द फैमिली. ठीक है. सो मेंबर्स सब है. अब वो को पार्टनर्स है या नहीं, दैट वी हैव टू सी बाय द स्टेटस इफ दे आर बोर्न इनटू द फैमिली. को पार्टनर को इनकम असेस नहीं करनी. HUF का इनकम असेस होगा, उसका सारा रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है ऑन कर्ता टू मैनेज द टास्क एंड डू ऑल द स्टफ. ठीक है. कर्ता अपना इंडिविजुअल तो है ही, राइट. वो अपना रिटर्न फाइल करेगा. ही विल फाइल हिज इनकम एंड ही विल ऑल्सो एंश्योर दैट HUF का रिटर्न इज फाइल्ड HUF की इनकम पे. दो सेपरेट एंटिटी है. ओके. We would not take over XHUF. If XHUF का partition हो जाता है, we will get a share of XHUF. Yes, Darshan. Karta cannot be a mother here. Why so? Because that is Mrs. X. Because eldest main member generally becomes the Karta, eldest member, and the Karta should be a co-partner. If suppose X dies, then in this case, then B would become the Karta, not Mrs. X. Mrs. X Karta सिर्फ तब बन सकती है if B and C are minor. Till the time B and C becomes major, only तब तक. But if कल को X dies, then B would take over. Okay. मिसेज एक्स क्या पता को पार्टनर हो अपने खुद के फादर के HUF पे. अब सपोज मिसेज एक्स के फादर थे मिस्टर P, उनका भी है फैमिली है, तो उसमें शी इज अ को पार्टनर. बट अपने हस्बैंड के HUF में शी विल बी अ मेंबर. गॉट इट. Now we move to a term जो हम सबने बहुत बार सुना है, which is company. I think everyone knows what company is. What is company? Company is now a creation of law जो law के through आए, law के through born हुए, उनको law के through incorporate किया गया. Individual takes birth, HUF is already there. Company is formed, incorporated, and there's a procedure of incorporation. So company is basically any Indian company, or the term domestic company you can use. Indian company as per Companies Act 1956 or the 2013. So जो उस act में born हुई है, because आप अगर कभी company को register कराओ, you get them register under those acts. So if they're incorporated under the Companies Act 1956 or Companies Act 2013, they are company as a taxable person. Similarly, if you are a corporation under all these different acts which were there state-wise earlier, आप उसमें corporation बने हो, then also you are a company. Companies can be majorly classified as domestic company and foreign company. फॉरेन कंपनी कौन सी हुई? जो बाहर इनकॉर्पोरेट हुई है. अब यूएसए का कंपनी इज अ फॉरेन कंपनी फ्रॉम इंडियन टैक्स परस्पेक्टिव. क्यों? बिकॉज इट वॉज born outside. It was not born in as per any company law or corporate law which was there under the income tax, under the Indian acts. Okay, this foreign company was born as per the foreign acts, the acts which are there outside India. So this is called foreign company. Domestic company में domestic मतलब Indian? No, Indian company तो आता ही आता है. So domestic company would include Indian companies. Indian company कौन सा हो गया? Which I told you, who are born in India, who are incorporated in India as per the Companies Act, which is relevant 1956, which was there earlier, and 2013, which is there now. और any other corporate जो किसी state के corporate law के according they are born. Plus, any foreign company can also become a domestic company if, यहाँ पे एक बहुत प्यारा सा टर्म है, they make arrangement for declaring and paying dividends in India. मतलब a foreign company would be assessed as Indian, as a domestic company if they make arrangements for declaring and paying dividend within India out of the income chargeable to tax in India. अब क्या मतलब हुआ मैम? सबसे पहले फॉरेन कंपनी क्या हो गई? जो बाहर बॉर्न हुई है, ठीक है. बट एक फॉरेन कंपनी एक डोमेस्टिक कंपनी बन सकती है अगर वो इंडिया में डिविडेंड डिक्लेयर करे. अब डिविडेंड्स कैसे डिक्लेयर होते हैं? हाउ डू यू डिक्लेयर डिविडेंड? इन दी एजीएम. एजीएम इंडिया में हो, नंबर वन, एंड दे आर पेइंग डिविडेंड इन इंडिया. पेइंग डिविडेंड इन इंडिया मतलब वो जो डिविडेंड दे रहे हैं वो मेजरली इंडियन बैंक अकाउंट्स में दे रहे हैं, इंडियन करेंसीज में दे रहे हैं, इंडियन शेयर होल्डर्स को दे रहे हैं. देन इवन इफ वो कंपनी वाज बोर्न आउटसाइड इंडिया, but it would be called a domestic company provided the dividends are declared and paid within India from the income which is chargeable in India. Got it? But ma'am, ये relevance, why are we dividing companies as domestic company and foreign companies? Because abhi when you will read out income tax provisions, there are some provisions which are applicable to domestic companies, some are applicable to foreign companies, some are the rates, the most important, the tax rates. Domestic company के लिए tax rates are different, foreign companies के लिए tax rates are different. Some exemptions or some special rates are only applicable to domestic companies. So it becomes very important कि हम income tax करने के लिए company समझें and company में domestic company and foreign company समझें कि what are actually they. Got it? Companies में किसी को कोई doubt? Then we will move towards our next term, which is firm. So private company and public company, Mahesh, is a concept under domestic company. Private companies would be a company जो closely held company होता है, where obviously public in large are not investing. Public companies would be a company where public at large is investing, that we call as open held company. Got it? Company समझने में, to understand company, is there any confusion? One person company OPC is a company. So Rahul had a question: after marriage, whether women continues to be a co-pastor of her father family? Yes, she's a co-pastor of her father family, and at the same time, she would be a member of her husband family. Okay, चलिए आगे. So types of person में we saw individuals are there, HUF are there, companies are there. All are separate tax entities. Now similarly, firm यहाँ पे partnership firm है. Partnership firm क्या होते हैं? Where by an agreement two or more person come together for carrying on a business and sharing profits as per the agreement. Simple. They are coming together, having an agreement, having all those things clear in the partnership deed, and then they work as per the responsibility. And ultimately, whatever the profit is there, gets distributed in the profit sharing ratio. 11th का accounts is what we have done. So partnership firm में अब क्या है? अब आप बोलोगे A, B, and C formed a partnership firm called Messrs. ABC. So now A, B, and C to individual है from very beginning. Now Messrs. ABC is also a taxable entity as a firm. They are taxable entities as a firm because the ABC have formed Messrs. ABC, which now would be a partnership firm, which would now have profits of its own, which would be different from A, B, and C. A, B, C are partners. उनको वहां से जो मिलेगा, whatever they would be earning from Messrs. ABC is their income. But whatever Messrs. ABC as a partnership firm is earning is its income. जैसे companies में भी see companies में there is company का income and then companies में we see that there is companies का income and then that is divided into shareholders and dividend. So shareholders are different people, like they are individuals, they can be other persons also. So the shareholders are earning income as dividend, but companies earning income out of his business. So companies different, shareholders are different. Similarly, Messrs. ABC is a firm run by ABC. So A, B, and C are different individuals, and Messrs. ABC is a partnership firm. This is different taxable entity and is covered under the term person. Clear? This is as per the India Partnership Act. All the profits which would be earned would be divided as per the profit sharing ratio. Everything goes as per the partnership deed. Partners can be individuals in this firm. Partners can be different types of person. A different type of person when I say, so that means X Limited can also be a partner, B HUF can be a partner, and Mr. J can be a partner and form a firm called ORS Associates. That is fine. These are partners of ORS Associates. This ORS Associates is a partnership firm where X Limited is a partner, B HUF is a partner, and Mr. J is a partner. Partners J, B HUF, X Limited, and they have formed ORS Associate, which is a firm. Now, obviously, they would be represented by someone. That would be a case, no problem in that. BHF mein Karta would represent X Limited mein some director or some employee or anyone would be representing X Limited. That is a different case because ultimately to run business you need people, right? So that would be different case. But X Limited has given its capital contribution, BHF has given its capital contribution, and Mr. J has given a capital contribution to form a business, and that business is run under a common agreement with profit sharing ratios defined. Got it? So it's not necessary that partners in a partnership firm should always be individual. Though it is always seen that partners are individuals, but they can be other types of person also. You can take a moment and understand it, and then we'll move forward. Yes, Bhumika, we can form as a own HF, even if he is a co-partner in his father's HF, we can do it. अवधेश, अभी पार्टनर समझ आया, पार्टनरशिप क्लियर हुआ? स्टेप बाय स्टेप चलते हैं ना, व्हाई कंफ्यूज योरसेल्फ, स्टेप बाय स्टेप विल गो. Sure, just give me a moment. So, first we'll understand this simple thing. Partnership firm क्या है? Partnership firm is a separate tax entity. It's a separate tax entity. Why? It's a agreement. It is formed because of an agreement, that is a partnership deed between two or more person who agree to carry on a business, to earn profits and share those profit as per profit sharing ratio. हिंदी में दो लोग मिलकर एक बिजनेस करते हैं एक पार्टनरशिप डीड के अकॉर्डिंग, एंड अपना प्रॉफिट शेयरिंग रेशियो डिसाइड करते हैं कि उस बिजनेस से जो प्रॉफिट होगा वी विल डिवाइड अमंग अस, दैट इज कॉल्ड पार्टनरशिप. सो द entity which is born here is a partnership firm. This is called, so ABC if decides to carry on a business under a common name and have an agreement for it, and they will put in their capital contribution, and from that capital contribution they will run a business, put in their efforts, earn profits and then share that profit, that is called a partnership agreement. That's a partnership agreement. So they would form a firm whereby this firm would be called a partnership firm, you can call it as a firm, and there is another concept, I'll come to it later, in which A, B, C are partners. Ab A, B, C are partners in their individual capacity in the partnership firm. Now, how many tax entities here are involved? One is Mrs. ABC, which is a partnership firm, which will pay taxes and which will show its income on the business which is being generated as per Mrs. ABC. A person, B person, and C person are separate individual tax entities. They are individual persons who would give and declare the income which they have earned as individuals. Mrs. ABC would declare an income which Mrs. ABC has earned as a firm. Got it? So A, B, C तीनों मिले, they formed Mrs. ABC. Mrs. ABC का जो business हो रहा है उससे जो profit हो रहा है, that is a separate taxable entity. It will give the tax on it. A, B and C are different persons. उससे whatever they are earning separately from their own individual capacity, वो as a partner earn कर सकते हैं, वो as a shareholder earn कर सकते हैं. They can earn it as a partner, they can earn it as a shareholder, they can earn it as a businessman, they can earn it from bank, from extra source, whatever source. वो individual income. मैसेज एबीसी जो बिजनेस से फर्म को इनकम आएगा, दैट इज फर्म का इनकम. Got it? अब it is not necessary that the partners be only your individuals. Partners can be companies, partners can be firm. A firm can be a partner in a firm also, an HF can be a partner in a firm also. Ultimately क्या है, यहाँ पे लिखा है a partnership is a relation between persons, and persons can be anyone. यहाँ पे a relation between individuals, it's not written. It's a relation between persons who have agreed to share the profits of a business, and that business which is being carried on by all or any one of them, acting for all. The persons who have entered into partnership with one another are called partners, and the term collectively is called firm. So when X Limited, B Limited, X Limited, B ka HUF and Mr. J come together to run a business with common interest, and either it would be run by all or by any one of them acting for all, that business collectively is called a firm, and these are different person in their different capacity, and are also the partners in ORS Associates. ORS Associate is a firm, And X Limited, BHF and Mr. J are different partners in the firm as different category of person in their respective categories. Got it? अब एक्स लिमिटेड को ऑब्वियसली एक्स लिमिटेड एक आर्टिफिशियल पर्सन है, उसको चलाने के लिए some shareholder would step up, some manager would come in, some director would come in, that is different. BHF को represent करने के लिए a कर्ता would come in, the documents would be signed by some representative only, right? So कर्ता would come in. Mr. J is an individual himself, he would form an agreement, and then it can be decided that all efforts would be put in by Mr. J, who will put in the capital contribution. That is totally the agreement which happens among the parties. तीन लोग एक साथ आके एक काम कर रहे हैं, that is called partnership firm, provided there is an agreement for a ongoing concern and there is a fixed profit sharing ratio. Yes, in company, firm and HUF can hold share. There is no big deal in that. See, every person is a separate tax entity. Person bola, मैंने individual नहीं बोला. Every person is a separate tax entity, and when you keep that in mind, you can understand that this person can be a shareholder in a company. This person can be an HUF. This person can be a partner in a firm. That is totally fine. हाँ, HUF में members would only be individuals because HUF is a concept of a family thing. देखो एक और बारी we will do one more time. So because I told you that what are persons are person as per income tax. Person as per income tax can be an individual like you and me. Okay, can be an individual like you and me. Can be an HUF. Can be a company. These are all separate person. That means separate taxable entities. Can be an AOP, BOI. Obviously, I did not come. Can be a firm. अब मतलब क्या है? Individual means like people like you and me, the human beings. They are individual. They are type of a person. HUF means a family. That is a type of person. Family means a joint Hindu family whereby they have a common corpus, and from that corpus they are earning income. So that is called HUF. अब इसमें HUF का part would always be members who would be individuals generally. अब HUF will pay tax on its income. Individual वो इस category में जाके they will pay tax on their income. Separate हो गया. Now companies are run by people who invest in it. They are called shareholders. They can be any amount of shareholders, right? So but company is run by directors. वो अब बोलोगे मैम what are directors? Directors are ultimately individual. उससे हमें we do not have to do anything. Company is a body corporate born as per the Companies Act. अब shareholders invest. अब shareholder are different people. Company is a different people. Company is a different person. Shareholder is a different person. Shareholders can be anyone. Shareholder can be you. Shareholder can be me. Shareholder can be HUF. HUF अपने corpus से, HUF अपने capital contribution से company में invest कर सकता है to earn dividend, right? No one has stopped it. Just remember, these people are different tax person. Now, when shareholders invest, they are investing as a shareholder. They do not become a company. मैंने आज एक कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट कर दिया, क्या मैं वो कंपनी बन गई? No, I am a shareholder. Company is different. They are different juridical person. They are two different taxable person. So now coming to firm. Firm is run by partners. Okay, all of these, see, except all are non-human. They're all intangible form. They're all artificial in the sense they're artificial human beings. They're not live. वहां पे आप बात नहीं कर सकते किसी के लिए, उनको represent करने के लिए there would be someone, right? But they are all separate tax entities having their own tax identity by running their own businesses and by generating their own income. Yeah, because there is member who is running it, there can be interlinking, but there is a fine thread which separates them into separate identities, into separate entities. Individual, if is a member of HUF, fine, but wo individual hai. At the same time, HUF is separate. Now, when we talk about firms, ABC are partners in a firm who have formed the firm by what? By an agreement. That agreement is partnership deed, in which they will run a common business, out of which the profits of it would be divided as per the agreement. अब if A would have been doing his own business, B would have been doing his own business, C would have been doing his own business, that does not make them a firm. अब वो A, B, C अपने individual capacity में they are doing the business. But when A, B, C decides to come together, form a common entity that is called firm to run a business and earn profits and share it, here the partnership firm has gone and now it would be a separate tax entity. Got it? अब यहाँ पे partners can be anyone. अब कल को HUF says that I want to be a partner in a partnership firm, no problem. HUF will make capital contribution from its own corpus, but ultimately HUF के document sign करेगा कौन? कर्ता would represent it. So that is what separate type of person can be a partner in a partnership firm. तभी यहाँ पे it's a relationship between persons and not partner. Person समझने के लिए clear a picture of individual. Person are not you and me. We are one of the type of person as per Income Tax Act. We are understanding the definition of person, and then definition of person we are picking each element to understand what it means. Person में what is included? Individual, HUF, AOP, BOI, firm, company, artificial juridical person, and local authorities. They all are persons. That means they all are separate types of taxable entities. They might be interlinked, that some person might be a partner in one, some person might be a member in one, some person might be a shareholder in one, but that does not matter. एक सबका खुद का identity है, खुद का tax entity है, खुद का business है. ठीक है? अब I hope it is clear to everyone. And you know what? Strangely, these concepts of understanding what is a company, what is a firm, these are not income tax concepts. ये general understanding concepts है. Manisha, Sudhanshu, Krishna, is it clear? Yes, to form a firm, there should be a business, there should be a deed, which would be telling what are the responsibilities, what is the profit sharing ratio, what would be the capital contribution thing. So proper agreement. Varsha, I think your question is answered. Firm company में firm can be a shareholder. वो अपने फर्म का जो खुद का कैपिटल कंट्रीब्यूशन है जो अल्टीमेटली इंडिविजुअल्स या अल्टीमेटली पार्टनर से मिले, बट अब दैट हैज बिकम फर्म का कैपिटल कंट्रीब्यूशन. फ्रॉम दैट इट कैन इन्वेस्ट इन एनीथिंग. Just remember the concept of separate tax identity and you will get it. अब एक टर्म आता है LLP. LLPs are same as firms अभी के लिए at this stage. Just remember LLPs, limited liability partnership, they are same as firm. जहाँ पे firm का बात होगा, LLP would include automatically until unless specifically excluded. Limited liability partnership. But the difference here is यहाँ पे A, B, C का liability is limited. That means their personal assets would not be used in case of default by the firm. But they are also partners. यहाँ पे the term designated partners are used. Next, we move to understand AOP BOI. Now, ma'am, what is AOP BOI? This is extremely interesting. Like firms have partners, companies have shareholders, HUF have members, co-partners, and Karta. AOP and BOI have members. Just one thing. Now, what is AOP and BOI? किसी ने वर्ड सुना है AOP BOI से पहले? Joint venture सुना है किसी ने? Anyone have heard about joint venture? Come on, think about it. See, income tax again, with the volume, income tax actually is all about relating your concepts. Whatever you have heard, usko relate karo. Association of profession, okay, interesting. Joint venture, yes, Krishna. What is joint venture? When two or more companies come join together for a specific project, it is called joint venture. Okay. Contractual partnership is a joint venture. Very interesting. Two entities join for same purpose. Correct, Diksha. Joint venture form for a particular purpose. Company work with the company. Very good. Very good. So ultimately, it's right. See, when two people, or two or more people are coming together for a specific purpose, for a common purpose of action, it can be like forming a trust. It can be forming for a joint venture, partnership firm or joint venture में फर्क है for a limited purpose, limited project. So that is called an association of person. Association मतलब coming together. Here the motive may not be earning profits or may not be carrying business. Partnership में the motive has to be carrying a business to earn profit. Then only it's a partnership firm coming together for some specific purpose. That purpose can be earning profit from a small venture. That purpose can be of a co-donor, co-donee, can be of a trust, can be of maintaining a property. That purpose can be anything. So when two people come together, they are called for a specific purpose. That is called AOP. There can be some mutual benefit coming out of it, but not necessarily a business and profit. That is not necessary. So AOP is an association of person and BOI is a body of individual. दोनों में difference इतना ही है AOP BOI में कि association of the word person is written here. Now the word person यहाँ पे means person. अभी तक हम क्या क्या पढ़ रहे हैं? Person can be any person, individual, HUF, firm, company, LLP, they can be firm. So AOP में different categories of person can be there to bring in an association, but body of individuals में only individuals would come together for some execution of a common purpose. So मतलब एक ही है AOP BOI का, but a thin line difference is person का association है, only individual का body है. So जब A, B, C come together for some common purpose, they would form a BOI. But when A, X Limited come together for a common purpose, they will form a AOP. Because here there are different type of person. X Limited is a type of company, A is a type of individual. यहाँ पे everyone is an individual. So अब जो वो फॉर्म करेंगे उसको AOP कहलाएंगे. Whatever is formed is called an AOP, and it's not necessary it should be formed or incorporated or registered anywhere. Even if it's just by action, it becomes an AOP. अब A and X Limited come together to take care of a trust, to take care of a common property. That is an AOP. If इसको समझने के लिए easy thing we can understand is they're coming together for a small project and forming a joint venture. Necessarily, they might not register that joint venture. They might not register incorporated as a company. It's just an agreement between them for a common purpose. So this purpose would be termed as AOP, and these person like that, these person, Mr. A and X Limited, would become members of AOP. Just like firms have partners, AOP has members. BOIs में these individuals become members of the BOI. AOP, different person, that is this joint venture would be a different person. And these members would be different person for tax purpose. Got it? Like trust, they A, B, C come together and form a trust. A trust ko you cannot say it's a partnership firm. You cannot say it's a company. Trust is like a common objective. If they came, maybe that objective might be to keep the property intact. It can be to take care of someone. It can be anything. But common purpose hai, they came together. Now that trust is a AOP, and ABC would be the members of it. AOP as in BOI, and ABC would be the members of it. But at your stage, I would like you to focus on the terms of individuals, HUF, companies, firm, because that you would listen a lot. AOP, BOI ka taxation would come at final level. Next is local authority. अब एक बात बताओ, if anyone of you in Delhi, what is MCD? MCD को can I say it's a company? Or can I say it's a firm? No. Then how would I identify them as? So these are called local authorities. MCDs ho gaya, some universities, these are all called your local authorities, who are like committees. They can be district board, body of commissioners. All of these are your local authority. Again, they are also taxable entities. Sorry, universities are not your local authorities. Board, your Zilla Parishads, all of these are your local authorities. Then last, juridical person. They are artificial, as in they are non-human. They are juridical person, they are taxable entities, but they do not get covered under any of such different categories which we saw. They are there as a residual category. So which would not fit in there would fit in here. Like Bar Council of India. A Bar Council of India is not a municipality where I would say it as a local authority, correct? It is not my company. I cannot say it as a company. It's not a firm. It's an association, which is like a recognized association under a law. So that becomes a artificial juridical person. Rather, universities, Delhi universities, who I cannot say it's an AOP. I cannot say it's a firm. I cannot say it is a company. They becomes an artificial juridical person. Got it? So can I say in the definition of persons, there are 7 different types of person. That means 7 different types of taxable entities for the purpose of law, for the purpose of Income Tax Act, namely individual, HUF, company, firm, AOP, BOI, local authorities, and artificial juridical person. Each type of entity would be categorized under these as a person, and they would be fulfilling their responsibility as an assessee. Got it? Individual might be a member in a HUF, individual might be a partner in a firm, but that does not mean that he is no more an individual. He is an individual. He's just a partner. He's playing a role of a partner. He's playing a role of a member in an HUF. That does not make them all combined. HUF would be different, firm would be different, and individuals would be different. Got it? And all of this comes under my section 2. Yes, MCD is a local authority, BMC is a local authority. See, corporation वो corporate अलग है, corporate वो companies वाला, उसको mix मत कर. Income Tax Act is relevant to all. वर्षा, ये तो वही बात हो गया. पर्सन में ये सब आ जाएंगे ना. इंडिविजुअल इज डिफरेंट. पर्सन को प्लीज डू नॉट थिंक ऑक्सफोर्ड डेफिनेशन की पर्सन इज यू एंड मी हु आर वॉकिंग इन पीपल. ह्यूमन बींग्स आर not person as per Income Tax Act. Whenever now in Income Tax Act you will read the term person, so you should have a wider picture that person can be anyone. Got it? Cooperative societies is an AOP. सी अवधेश, लोकल अथॉरिटीज में मतलब म्यूनिसिपैलिटीज आ जाते हैं, जिला परिषद आ जाते हैं, डिस्ट्रिक्ट बोर्ड्स, ऑल ऑफ दीज आर योर लोकल अथॉरिटीज. उसको कॉर्पोरेशन वर्ड से डू नॉट कंफ्यूज इट. एक बारी प्लीज गो थ्रू, कहीं पे डाउट है प्लीज आस्क. कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी सीओपी के अंदर है. करेक्ट भूमिका. इंडिविजुअल इज सेपरेट. इंडिविजुअल इज अ सेपरेट पर्सन. कंपनी इज अ सेपरेट पर्सन. पर्सन मतलब टैक्सेबल एंटिटी, दोनों अलग अलग. गॉट इट? The artificial juridical person क्या है? Artificial juridical person is a common name defined with for any person who is not one second. Yeah. Sorry. Artificial juridical person are the entities which are not natural. सबसे पहले, because if they would have been natural person, they would have been individuals, but are separate entities in the eyes of law. There's a residual category which could cover all artificial person. मतलब जो individuals नहीं है and are not fitting under any of the company firm HUF criteria or AFP criteria, they would be covered under this category. with juristic personality not falling under any categories of the person, like Bar Council. A Bar Council of India को I cannot say it's an EOP, I cannot say it's a company, I cannot say it's a firm. So वो क्या जाएगी? That will go under the category of artificial juridical person. और यूनिवर्सिटीज वो कहाँ जाएंगे? आर्टिफिशियल जुरिडिकल पर्सन की कैटेगरी में. So they would be tagged as an AJP, that is your artificial juridical person. They are not human beings, but they are separate entities जो किसी भी कैटेगरी में फिट नहीं हो रहा. Like government agencies, not government organizations, international organizations, these are all your AJPs. वो एक स्पेशल एक्ट के अंदर फॉर्म हो सकते हैं, स्पेशल लेजिस्लेचर के अंदर दे कैन बी फॉर्म एंड हैव अ डिफरेंट जुरिडिकल पर्सनालिटी. दैट वुड बी योर AJP. So before we end the class, अब income का definition. Income, Baba, it's a huge definition as per section 2, clause 24. 2 clause 7 के according we understood what is your person. Then we came to understand 2 clause 31, what is your SSC. Then we came to understand what is your person. We saw what is assessment, section 2 clause 8. अब अगर if I go to the definition of income, it's huge. और अभी इतना सारा इसमें कंटेंट होगा which you would not be able to relate because those would be relatable at different stage of your understanding of income tax act. ठीक है, so I will not touch this definition and I would rather request you to not touch this definition, but understand from a wider picture. Income is anything which you're earning. Whether you're receiving or not, that is different point of taxability. But income is what you're earning during the year. That is your income. It can be in kind, it can be in cash, it can be in your bank account, it can be in any benefit form. That is what we have to understand. Okay. Now, one thing before we end the class today is to understand the concept of previous year and assessment year. On this, I will end the class. Previous year and assessment year is one such concept which is there in Income Tax Act and which is truly there for Income Tax Act. सबने ये टर्म सुना है financial year, FY, financial year, fiscal year, it's the same thing. Financial year is the year for which you make your books of accounts. It's there for different countries. It's a fiscal year. अब इंडिया के लिए financial year is from April to March. Some countries follow, like Dubai, follow financial year from January to December. हमारा British oriented है April to March. USA, I think, follows financial year from July to June or June to May, something like this. So every country has its own fiscal year for which they open their book and maintain their book for a period. See, all the accounting has to be done period wise, and those small periods are called financial year, right? A previous year is somewhat a concept similar to financial year, but for income tax, we use the term previous year. Previous year is the year in which you earn the income. It's the financial year in which the income is earned. So, abhi, my previous year is 23, 24 going on. Or the previous year which just ended, in which I earned the income, would be 22, 23. So that means previous year 22, 23 में मैंने क्या income earn करा है. So previous year, it's a financial year in which I earn the income. It's a similar concept to financial year, but in income tax में we use the word previous year. Previous यहाँ पे पिछला नहीं है as per the literal Hindi meaning, और preceding नहीं है. वो preceding term is different. Previous year means the year in which you are earning the income, the financial year in which the income is earned. But what is assessment year? Assessment year is the year in which the income which is earned in the previous year becomes taxable or is assessed? क्योंकि एक साल पूरा खत्म होगा, I'll speak in English also. Once the year ends, then only you will be able to assess or compute what is be the income, what has been the income for that previous year. Correct? Once the year ends, then only I would be able to compute the income for that year. So the previous year is the year in which you are earning the income, and the assessment year is the year in which you assess the income, which would be immediately following that previous year. So the year in which the income is earned is the previous year, and when such income is taxable and assessed, which is the immediately following year, it's become the assessment year. Every previous year will have its assessment year, which would be immediately following period starting from 1st April. So if I say that if I'm talking about previous year 22-23, that means I'm in a way referring to assessment year 23-24. That means previous year 22-23 का income earned would be assessed in assessment year 23-24. तभी हम return इस period में file करते हैं, which is why assessment year वाला period. Now similarly, whatever I'm earning in previous year 23-24 would be assessed in assessment year 24-25. Every previous year has an assessment year to it, which is immediately following financial year starting from 1st April. So for you, the applicable previous year is 22-23 from your exam perspective, and hence the assessment year is 23-24. So if I talk about the term previous year 18-19, then you prima facie also assume that I'm talking about assessment year 19-20. That means if I'm using the word assessment year 19-20, or if I'm using the word previous year 18-19, I'm referring to the same time ka income which is earned in this year, which is 18-19. The only difference is the income is earned in this time and it is assessed in this time. That's when the assessment year comes. Our assessment year would be a previous year for the period when you're earning the income. अब जैसे इस एग्जाम्पल में प्रीवियस ईयर क्या था, 22-23. उसके लिए असेसमेंट ईयर क्या हो गया, 23-24, because the income which is earned in this period would be assessed in this period. But at the same time, there's a previous year now going, which is my previous year 23-24, because I'm earning income in this period. So उसके लिए assessment period would be, the assessment year would be assessment year 24-25. So whenever I'm using the word previous year or assessment year, previous year would be the year when you're earning the income, and assessment year would be the year when the income is being assessed for the income which you have earned in the previous year. So when I use the term assessment year 24-25, I'm referring to the income of previous year 23-24. Or when I'm using the word assessment year 19-20, then I'm referring to the income of previous year 18-19. So जब आपको लोग आके बोलेंगे, when the people will come and say to you that file the return for assessment year 19-20, they are saying to you that file the return of the income which you have earned in a previous year 18-19. Got it? So if in अभी किस पीरियड का रिटर्न जाएगा, अभी assessment year 23-24 is going, that means previous year 22-23 का income has to be assessed, when at the same time simultaneously previous year is also going, but for the assessment year perspective, the previous year 22-23 का return has to be filed. It has to be assessed. Got it? So if this question में देखो, first example, A is running a business from 1993 onwards. During the previous year, determine the previous year for the assessment year 23-24. So AY 23-24 के लिए I have to determine the previous year. He might be earning for past 30 years, 40 years, but previous year कौन सा होगा? The immediately preceding year of the assessment year, which is my previous year 22-23. Now, one catch is there in the term of previous year that when a business is newly set up, तो आप उसके लिए financial year क्या लेते हो? When a business is newly set up, आप financial year starting from the date of business लेते हो. Similarly, when a business is newly set up, the date of business to the end of the financial year would be its previous year. So instead of starting from 1st April, the previous year would start from the date of business and would end on the 31st March of the financial year. So for example, here, a chartered accountant sets up his profession on 1st July 2022. Determine the previous year for the assessment year 23-24. So the previous year, since he started the profession from 1st July, he started the profession from the middle of the previous year. The previous year would start from the date he started the profession, which is 1st July 2022 से 31st March 23. And assessment year इसके लिए पूरा होगा. Assessment year is always a complete 12-month period which starts immediately after the previous year. So assessment year would be 23-24, which would, that means from 1st April 23 to 31st March 24. So now if a person has started business on 28th February 2024. So what is the previous year? Previous year is 28th February 24 to March 24. And the assessment year for this previous year would be assessment year 24-25. एक बारी देखो, समझो. In case you have any doubt, let me know. The banks, Maheshwar, are generally formed as your limited companies. So they become your companies. ICICI Bank Limited, right? Yes, Avdesh, you can say it. High Court is a juridical person, Supreme Courts also. Got it? So abhi tak in today's class we understood. See, again, I would say that basic concepts, as the name suggests, the class to determine the foundation. And at this level, when you are just beginning to understand Income Tax Act, it becomes very crucial. Rather, it's a base for you to understand all the acts. अभी आपको कितना सारा act समझने को मिलेगा. There would be Companies Act, there would be GST, there would be any other labor law which would be coming. So the base for all the acts or the base for all the laws are their acts, their rules, their circulars, their notifications, their judicial pronouncement. All of these together brings a framework to understand the laws. Okay, once you understand it, then only you would be able to apply it accordingly. So this class becomes a foundation for you to understand how I have to perceive terms. And now there is an entire life there to understand income tax. There are so many provisions. There are so many different types of heads. Most of you might know, many of you might not know. It's totally fine. Just go step by step, understand concept by concept, and try to be technically right. ये मत बोलना कि हाँ HUF and HUF and कर्ता are same. नहीं, technically right बोलो. HUF is different. कर्ता is the person who manages the HUF. To be technically right, and that would only come when you have the conceptual knowledge of it. Okay, so try to find the meaning for it. So, Abhi, just today we have covered mostly the definitions and understanding. So you can read it up to computation of income we will do. So you can skip that. Otherwise, you can give a read to all the things. Ignore the definition of income for the time being. And in the next class, we start with understanding how the income gets computed. What are the exceptions to previous year being previous year and assessment year, and then we will understand how the tax gets calculated and undisclosed income. Okay. No, Avdesh, no. Financial year 1920 मतलब आपने income किस year financial year में on किया 1920. So 1920 becomes your previous year. Previous year का income you will previous year का people use an interchangeable concept. Previous year को financial year बोलते हैं. Technically अगर आप बात करो from a side picture they are right. But from income tax law language it's always better to use the term previous year. So previous year is the year in which you earn the income. That is in a way your financial year. Now, once the income is earned, immediately when the year ends, after that the assessment year begins, in which you will tell कि हाँ मैंने previous year में क्या income earn किया. So that year which begins immediately after the previous year ends is your assessment year. So in your example, previous year 1920 and financial year 1920 would be there, and assessment year would be 2021. ठीक है, गॉट इट. प्रीवियस ईयर को टर्म प्रीसीडिंग से मत कंफ्यूज करना. डू नॉट कंफ्यूज द टर्म प्रीवियस ईयर विद प्रीसीडिंग ईयर. दैट वुड बी रॉन्ग. So thank you so much, guys. See you in the next class on Monday. I hope you got a good clarity today. Thank you.